I am joined to my left and right by two experts in their field. In my line of work, I work in the world of assessment, psychological and academic assessment for children. When I work with parents, I always say that it's my job to find out how your child thinks, learns and feels, because to my mind, the thinking and the learning are indivisible from the feeling. If your child is not feeling calm and assured, the thinking and the learning are not possible. And with this in mind, we have the brilliant Powell of Chatterminds. Chatterminds, a service that aims to introduce mindfulness to young people so that they can be in charge of their own emotional world rather than their emotional world being in charge of them. It's amazing work that Carol does. And to my right, we have the incredible Lucinda Miller, who is the clinical lead of NatureDoc. There is a saying, isn't there? You get out what you put in. And to my mind, that's exactly what your world is all about. It's about really nourishing our children physically in order to make sure that they are best equipped to deal with the challenges that the world throws at them. Lucinda is also an author of two best-selling books, one of which is The Good Stuff, a healthy cookbook for not just for children, for families as well. Is that right?
For the whole family.
And I know that Lucinda and Carol are absolutely bursting to share with you their top hacks. When we started planning this panel, there are so many hacks that they want to share with you. Time is limited, so what we're going to do, we're going to think about the flashpoints in family life. And we divided that down into those times in the morning. We're awake, we've got to get ready, we've got to get to school on time. What are our quick hacks to help manage that particular flashpoint in the day? And then we'll move on to a little later in the day when the children get home from school. But I want to begin by thinking about it's early in the morning, everything is going on, the stakes are very high. Carol, what is your quick hack to deal with the morning maelstrom in your family's home?
Thanks, Des. Good morning. Lovely to be here. Okay, so in the morning, how many times have we asked our children to brush their teeth, to find their shoes? Is it PE today? Etc., etc., etc. And so I think sometimes the most important thing that we can do when things become stressful in the morning is start by ourselves, okay? It's very easy to say, well, you need to be calm, first of all, for your children, but it's quite difficult to do when we're feeling stressed. So when we are noticing things becoming a bit fraught, it's really helpful to just pause, and you can almost feel it in your body. You're likely to have what we would call a stress signature. So some people feel stress in their stomach, some people feel it up in their chest, some people in their jaw. And it's about taking a moment of like, oh, actually, this is really stressful. Take a moment, take a pause, take a breath, maybe just take yourself into the kitchen, breathe, come back, because actually your children need to borrow your regulated nervous systems, okay? That's a really nice phrase I heard. So it's almost like we need to be the calm in their storm. Once you have regulated yourself, it might be helpful to actually validate with your children that this is a moment of stress. Oh my goodness, this is stressful this morning, isn't it? It's not very nice when we're rushing on a Monday morning. Oh God, feels, a bit much. Hearing the child, recognizing that actually the morning is stressful and, allowing it to be as it is. And then once we've done that, once we've regulated ourselves and we've validated what's actually happening, it's really helpful as a parent to model to the child about how to regulate themselves. So sometimes by naming how you're feeling, there's a well-known scientist called Dan Siegel, and he talks about the whole brain child, and when you name it to tame it. So it's about saying, oh, I'm really noticing stress this morning. I can feel it in my tummy. I'm going to take a big breath. And then that is showing a child that it's okay to be stressed. You can feel it in your body, and actually this is something that I can do to calm it down. When things have then settled a little bit before it's time to get out the door, I would distract with a very easy question. So something like, what should we have for dinner tonight? Or what are we going to do at the weekend? Something like that. So we've got out of this sort of emotional reactivity and we're engaging the thinking brain, which can then help everybody to move forward and get into the car.
Carol, that was amazing. The couple of points I really took from that is this idea that we're leading by example, but the example is not that we are an ocean of calm, but that we are feeling people and that it's okay to give complete permission to those feelings, name them, feel them, allow them to do what they're there to do, and then to move on. And I love the idea of a distraction just before you walk out the door, just to avoid that. Yeah. That's a real flashpoint of feeling. Lucinda, first thing in the morning, we're out of bed, we're racing for school. Sometimes nutrition is the very last thing on our mind, but I'm sure that you're about to tell me why that should not be the case. Is that right?
So yes, the mornings are very rushed, but if you think that your children's education is mainly done in the morning, so that's where they're doing all their learning and academic work, then of course their brains need to be fueled. And it's very easy just to lean on, say, a bowl of cereal or something like that. But the problem with that is it can make the blood sugars go very high, which makes the brain go quite busy, but then it can go flat very quickly. And when it dips, that means they can become unfocused and stressed and anxious and so forth, and find the work really hard. So that's where trying to set aside some time, whether it's the night before or in the morning, to prepare a really great breakfast, which would ideally be protein-based, so maybe eggs, maybe Greek yogurt, maybe some cheese, or if they're meat eaters, maybe a good quality sausage or something that is high protein. And that makes a massive difference because it's going to keep them much fuller for longer. So it's going to keep their brains fuller for longer too. So if that means, because they can't really rely on that snack at break time to break their fast. Now, I appreciate that some older children who are more independent might be leaving home incredibly early in the morning, and they may be on a bus for over an hour to get to school, and that can be very hard. And that's why I suggest something like a smoothie where you can get things like yogurt and milk or oats and seeds and things like that in there so that it's packed with a bit more. So there's a meal in a jug as such rather than, actually eating food at home, or to pack a little box of really good quality snacks so that they've got something to graze on, even whether it's in the bus or at school.
Yeah, brilliant. I think what I really heard there is this idea that I suppose breakfast cereals are peddled to us as a very quick fix in the morning when times are busy. Oh, cereal's quick, chuck it in the bowl. But actually, that's kind of counterproductive. That's not achieving what we want to achieve, which is a calm, well-fed, well-prepared household. And I love the idea of a pre-prepared box of snacks because I guess out of interest, how many of you have children who are traveling long distances to school in the morning? Or is that around the corner? Some of you already. For the rest of you, I guess in a couple of years' time, that's going to be part of your world. And yes, high-protein breakfasts. I know we happen to be a vegan household, so that's an interesting challenge. But I know soaking oats overnight. Are we doing the right kind of thing? Overnight oats?
Yes. So if you were to if you're vegan, you would soak that in some good quality cashew nut or almond nut milk, and then lots of almond butter or cashew butter or hazelnut butter, and lots of chia seeds and hemp seeds and things. So it is possible.
I mean, it sounds delicious, and if the thought is it's going to make the day better as well, then that's fantastic. Because obviously, at the start of the day, I guess as parents, what we're wanting to do is make sure that our children are really calm and prepared and ready to learn at the end of the day. That's when we send our children off to school. That's what we expect is going to be happening for the rest of the day. Sometimes we're absolutely delighted. Sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes you get to the end of the day and you pick your children up from school or they walk through the door and you get that sense of, okay, maybe today wasn't the amazing candy-coated day of learning I expected it to be. Carol, what are your hacks for the end of the day, which can be charged in a different way in my experience? What gems have you got to share with us?
Well, at the end of the day, we can use this analogy of a Coke can. So it's the idea that your child is at school, they're working, they're learning, they're behaving, they're sitting still. And for some children, that's actually quite a challenge, but it's like they're keeping it all in, and as the day's going by, it's like the Coke can is getting a little shake, a little shake, a little shake, and then as soon as they get home, it's like somebody takes the lid off. So you might be able to recognize this. This is when we see these big meltdowns, these big explosions. So a couple of suggestions that I would make are, when you see your child come out of school, don't ask lots of questions. So hold fire on the questions to begin with. So let them speak if they feel that they want to speak, and listen, okay? We're listening to what they're saying. We're validating, oh, that sounds tough, or lots of ums and ums like that. We're not jumping in. We're not trying to fix. We're not trying to dig deep. We're just listening and letting it all come out. And then perhaps later on, when things have, when your child is regulated, that is the time when you can ask questions, maybe steering away from how was your day, perhaps being, what was the best thing about today? What was the worst thing about today? And actually, everybody in the family can answer that. That's a lovely thing to do around the dinner table. Everybody share their best things and their worst things, because as Des said, what we're trying to do is normalize all feelings. They're all part of being human, and it's just about navigating them. Was one more other thing I wanted to say. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was, well, it was a quote actually about the way I respond to my child has more to do with how I'm feeling rather than what they're doing. And that quote really resonated with me. So, just to be mindful of that when we're interacting with our children, how we're feeling.
That's brilliant, brilliant advice. Two things, I guess, have really struck me from that. The idea of the Coke can, I think, is a particularly useful image because I'm sure that any of us who are parents have experienced that thing of picking up our child, and there's that sort of moment of almost tense silence at the end of the day when you ask, how was your day? And you don't quite get anything back in return. And I think the idea of a Coke can is really useful if I were to visualize that. Oh, hang on, there might be a lot of stuff going on inside. And if I'm going to open this can, I want to do it really lovingly and maybe in a safer place than the car or the playground.
Absolutely, and let it settle a bit. Leave it to be still before you open it.
Yeah, I suppose another thing that popped into my head when you were saying that is the idea, at the end of the day, we're reconnecting parent to child and child to parent. And I suppose if we make the focus, what happened today? What did you learn? What did you do today? We're maybe missing a trick in terms of that emotional reconnection and physical reconnection that just then allows the rest of the evening to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Carol. I'm going to just do a quick check-in because Carol is obviously here from Chatterminds and Lucinda from NatureDoc. And I know you've both got a stand, and I don't want to kind of just throw that in right at the end. Carol, where is the Chatterminds stand for people who want to ask you more after?
644.
And if I'm
Sort
right,
of over there,
in that corner,
direction.
down by the plan or something, yeah. So right in the far corner,
by the bursary and scholarship.
by the
place.
bursary stand. Okay, brilliant. Lucinda, I'm going to check in with you in a minute about the location of your stand. But first, I want to know, it's the end of the day. You don't know what's happened to your child between breakfast and tea time. What's your advice? How do we manage that moment from a really nourishing nutritional perspective?
Well, you can never rely on knowing what your child has had for lunch, even if the school provides the best food in the world or you've provided the best lunchbox. Anything can happen over lunch. Lunches tend to be very rushed. There's often other activities going on, or, they've got low blood sugar, so they're hangry and they're in the wrong space to be able to eat it, or it's, you've got raspberry rather than strawberry. They can be, pretty particular. And so very often you can end up with a full lunchbox coming back home. And, that school pickup time is when their blood sugars are going to be rock bottom. And so it's very, very easy to give them a packet of crisps or some Oreos because you think that's going to pick them up. But actually, that's the last thing that they need. They need something a bit more nourishing. And if you live literally around the corner from school, it's very easy just to maybe give them a banana or something like that when you first pick them up and then get them home. And then you can maybe do a picky plate with hummus and carrots or whatever they like to have as well. And if they're going on to after school clubs, then to again have a lunchbox full of goodies so that they've got lots to eat during that time, because that's when they're most hungry. And actually they'll probably almost be beyond hunger by the time they get home. So just to almost factor in a smaller supper maybe when they get home and more on the hop as such, if you are doing one or two activities after school. So it's thinking that's the time of the day when they probably haven't eaten since 7 or 7:30 in the morning, bar maybe one biscuit and, half a sandwich or something. So, it's actually a really important time. And so if you can get the protein in there too, that's fabulous. It's not always. So what I do with all my recipes is I create things like muffins and waffles and pancakes and things and cookies that are packed with protein. So then there's always a nut-free option if it does need to go to school, but it's after school, it doesn't need to be nut-free, obviously, unless they have an allergy. So you can get a whole load of lovely nutrients into those. And the great thing is you can make them and then have them in the freezer. And, I was never the organised mum, so they'd be in the freezer and I'd literally grab them. And by the time I got to school, they were defrosted and ready to go. So it was really easy. It was like instant food. And the kids used to cook at the weekend. We used to bake together. So they loved it and they got engaged in it too. So then when I said it's the blueberry muffins, they go, yay, rather than, oh, what are those? Those look odd, because they'd actually made them themselves. So those are some of the tips I suggest.
I'm hearing so many amazing hacks from either side. I hope people are taking notes as we're going along. And I'm loving this idea of doing the sort of batch bake at the weekend with the children so we get some quality time. Sticking them in the freezer, because then when you take one, because it's a cupcake, take one, it's out, it's defrosted by the time you get to school. Absolute genius. Definitely going to make a note of that. And I'm also now envisaging this scenario where at the end of the day, I'm so busy checking in with my child about what's gone on in the day that I don't notice the fact that they're feeling really hangry, and all of a sudden we have an explosion in the car or on the back of my bike, as it would be. But actually, if I'm giving time and space, and I've got the little box of really good quality snacks, I'm going to ask you in a second about your top 3 good quality end of the day snacks, then we've got the time to eat, the time to feel, and then the time to dissect the day can happen way, way later because we're nourished and we're calm and we're loved and everything is, that's brilliant. What would the top 3 things be in that snack pack, Lucinda?
Well, to keep them really, really easy, if you do eat meat, something like biltong is very easy. You can also buy roasted chickpeas, which are delicious. They do pizza-flavoured ones and salt and vinegar ones, so those are pretty good. And then I'd just say fresh fruit, sort of an apple or banana or something, or some berries in a little pot. So something really, or even satsuma, something simple. So keep it really simple.
And I'm guessing if your children are anything like me, avoid that thing of saying, are you hungry? Do you need some food right now? Because that always guarantees an explosion and zero eating whatsoever. So just to make it available, no cross-questioning, just time and space to eat. Lucinda, where's your stall? I want to get this cookbook. I want to know all about all of these things. Where do we find you after this talk?
So we're directly opposite, halfway down. So literally just walk down the stairs and we're there halfway along.
Brilliant. I'll check in with you about that again at the end because I know that we're all trying to frantically remember everything. I feel, as is always the case with these brilliant panels and brilliant people, time is limited. But what I'm interested in now, we sort of know a little bit more about before school and after school, but sort of in the time that we have remaining to us, I guess a challenge, one of 2 things. Either your sort of tip-top bonus hack, your number 1 thing that they never teach you at school or NCT, but that you really need in order to be as close to a perfect parent or an even more perfect parent than you are. Or the thing that I could do tomorrow that'll make a difference. I don't need to buy a book. I don't need to go online. Just a thing that I could do tomorrow that's going to really make a difference to my life or my family's life.
Okay, so there's lots of things that I could say, but I'm going to choose downtime is really, really important. Downtime and space for your child and for yourself. So, and giving yourself permission, if your child comes back from school and they are absolutely exhausted, could it be okay to say, all right, we don't go to football tonight? So something around allowing space, time, and checking in with how we're feeling as well, and how, what we need. Sometimes we're rushing through the day, just endless to-do lists, that it's really important just to stop, to pause, to take a breath and be like, a bit like you would ask your friend, what do I need? How are you doing? I mean, sometimes we need a wee for about 3 hours and we don't make it, or we haven't had a drink since breakfast. It's about that little acts of self-care, which then ripples out through the family.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really thinking there of the put on your own life jacket first. The fact that if we haven't had a drink all day or a snack all day or even been to the toilet, that's going to impact on our parenting. Time and space. And I suppose something I heard there which sounded almost alien to my experience is the idea that we would say, well, maybe we won't do piano lesson this evening. Maybe we won't go to ballet.
Is that okay? Can we be okay with missing something? Because it's the well-being that's the important thing here, and that underpins everything else.
Yeah, for sure. And I certainly know with lots of the parents here, we sort of have access to brilliant education, and we've got the option of clubs 5 nights a week, clubs every day of the weekend. I'm not going to ask for a hands up, but I'm interested to know how many clubs your children go to. And I suppose an interesting question, what purpose do those clubs serve? Oh, we've got, do you want to ask a question at the back? Or you want to just, he's saying too many clubs. That's how many clubs I go to. Too many. Very good to see you at the back. Thank you. So Lucinda, your sort of, your vital hack or your thing I could do tomorrow that I don't need to do any research for. I could just get out of bed tomorrow and do one thing that'll make a massive difference to my family. What's your final words of wisdom for us?
Well, I'm going to answer this slightly differently because it's something to do tonight. Is to basically, with your children, decide what they're going to have for breakfast tomorrow and get it ready. So say it's something like overnight oats. Put it in a bowl, put the oats and the yogurt and the apple juice and the nuts and whatever it might be in there and get it ready so that in the morning it's there waiting for you and they'll be excited about it because they'll have thought it through and they'll have chosen it. So prepare breakfast tonight for tomorrow and see what happens.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, sort of future-proofing your family is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing about time, I'm hearing about space, I'm hearing about food and nutrition, a stitch in time saving 9. What I'd love to know, having had these brilliant hacks, is just sort of in the final few minutes that remain to us, if you just tell us a tiny bit more, Carol, about Chatterminds and what you do and how you provide these hacks for children and for family.
Okay, so with Chatterminds is a way to teach mindfulness and ways to manage their emotions, manage stress, the ups and downs of life. So not just stressful things and managing tests and siblings and all the like friendship issues, things like that, but also how to recognize happy moments. Because often when we have a happy moment, we're so busy thinking about the things that are going wrong that we miss them. So the mindfulness part is the core of Chatterminds. So I teach courses and one-to-one sessions and family support packages, lots of different options to deliver emotional well-being to families.
Brilliant. And we can find you down in the corner over there. And Lucinda, just in the last couple of minutes, tell us a little bit more about sort of NatureDoc and the work you do and how that makes a difference to families and their daily life.
So we are a UK-wide team of nutritional therapists, mainly specialising in children, but we also do women's health and men's health as well. And we mainly see children with immune challenges, skin challenges, but also neurodevelopmental issues, whether that is barriers to learning, maybe it's some dyslexia, ADHD, autism, etc. And we help to basically uncover whether nutrient deficiencies or imbalanced gut microbiome may be part of the picture. So we run various laboratory tests to understand exactly what's going on inside the child, which are usually urine or stool or hair tests rather than blood. And then we basically bring it together by changing the diet and maybe introducing some supplements to help rebalance them a bit faster than diet alone can do.
Amazing. Fantastic. And we can find you just down and to the left. Is that right? Now, we are going to, in the last 3 minutes that remain, we're going to do something that, to my knowledge, has never, ever been done at the International Schools Show. Because this show is a show that is all about children and their future and their learning. And yet, in my experience, it's very often grown-ups who do the talking and grown-ups who do the thinking and grown-ups who run the stand. We've got a few children in the audience today. And I just wonder, of all those things we've heard this morning about things we could do in the morning, things we could do in the afternoon, things that we could do to nourish our bodies or nourish our minds a bit better, do we have any children in the room who have heard something today and they think, great, that would be really good for my family. I would love it if tomorrow we would ... Do we have a child who's heard something they really like the sound of today, that they really would like to happen in their family? I'm going to run to the back. Got this wonderful child. Oh, am I still? Can I get this far? Brilliant. Okay. So what's the one thing you would love to happen in your family that would make the biggest difference to you?
I like the facts. I like the facts.
You like the facts. There were some amazing facts this morning about things we could eat, about ways that we could feel, about ways we could give ourselves more space and time to think and to eat and to feel. Anyone else got something they really liked the sound of this morning? They thought, you know what? Our family would be better if we did that. Yes. What would you like to share?
Snacks for after school.
Snacks for after school. I think that is absolute genius. And if I heard you rightly, Lucinda, we're not talking about a pack of Pop-Tarts, are we? Remind us what those snacks for after school are going to be.
Well, it would be great to have some fruit. If mum's been great, or if you at the weekend have made some muffins or some waffles or some cookies, then you can have those too. And, something like roasted chickpeas or some biltong would be great too. So there are lots of different things you can think about. So they can be bought or they can be made, but obviously homemade is best.
I have a lovely image which you, Carol, and you, Lucinda, have planted in my head, and I think it's the one I'm going to take away with me, which is that at the end of the day, when we're reconnecting with our children after a long day at school, and we're desperate to know everything about what they've learned, and we're desperate to know about all the ups and downs, but that what we do at the end of the day is just take a moment with a little bowl or a little box of homemade cookies or muffins, just to be comfortable in each other's presence, not to need to fix anything, not to need to feel anything, not to need to say anything, just to really enjoy that moment of connection as a family. And I guess if that's the one hack we take away, if there's one thing we can do tomorrow that might make a massive difference, not just to tomorrow, but to the rest of our lives, that I think is a pretty amazing gift to have been given on a Sunday morning. I would like to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to Carol and to Lucinda from Chatterminds and NatureDoc. I know that loads of you will have questions. Start with the applause. And Carol and Lucinda are going to wait here, and they'll be able to answer some of your questions up here and the rest of your questions down on their stalls through the rest of the day. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you for joining us for this morning's panel.